from the Holy Gospel according to St. Mark.
Glory to thee, O Lord, glory to thee.
Let us attend. At that time a man came to Jesus, kneeling down and saying unto him, Teacher, I brought my son to you, for he has a dumb spirit, and whenever it seizes him, it dashes him down, and he foams and grinds his teeth and becomes rigid. And I asked your disciples to cast it out, and they were not able. And Jesus answered him, O faithless generation, how long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you? Bring him to me. And they brought the boy to him. And when the spirit saw Jesus, immediately it convulsed the boy, and he fell on the ground and rolled about, foaming at the mouth. And Jesus asked his father, How long has he had this? And he said, From childhood. And it has often cast him into the fire and into the water to destroy him. But if you can do anything, have pity on us and help us. And Jesus said to him, If you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes. Immediately the father of the child cried out and said with tears, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. And when Jesus saw that a crowd came running together, he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying to it, You dumb and deaf spirit, I command you, come out of him and never enter him again. And after crying out and convulsing him terribly, it came out, and the boy was like a corpse, so that most of them said, He is dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. And when Jesus had entered the house, his disciples asked him privately, Why could we not cast it out? And Jesus said to them, This kind cannot be driven out by anything but prayer and fasting. They went out from there and passed through Galilee, and Jesus would not have anyone know it, for he was teaching his disciples, saying to them, The Son of Man will be delivered into the hands of men, and they will kill him. And after he is killed, he will rise on the third day.
Glory to thee, O Lord, glory to thee.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. I hope you don't feel like we're playing a game of musical chairs in the church here, or more properly, musical choir. This morning the choir actually have a choir for the first time in a year or more, where actually the choir members are standing near each other. Choir is, or the chanter stand has been over here for about a year. And it's this week that we have moved it back to where it was to the left of me. And we did that because all our choir members are vaccinated, or they had COVID already. So they're able to stand together and sing together. And this should, though it kind of messes up where maybe we have been standing for the last year or something, this should be a good thing, that we're getting back to normal. There's nothing wrong with normal. We've been living in an abnormal time, an unusual time. But normal is a normal thing, a good thing. Normal is how things are because that's how things work. That's how things normally go. That's how people normally act. This is the food we normally eat. And we have experienced a time of great abnormality, which can have a benefit for us if we learn to value that which is normal. Being able to see each other's faces without them being covered is normal. And now that we've lived a year without that in many ways, or approaching a year, because the mask mandates largely came into effect in July, that maybe it is good for us to appreciate each other's faces, and being able to see one another, being able to stand closer than 6 feet to one another to talk. That's normal. And so as we come back to that which is normal, I hope we gain a greater appreciation for such things and to ponder why it is that we do things we do the way we do. Why is that the normal way? In our culture, in our civilization, there is much emphasis on trying not to be normal. And that somehow to be normal is a negative thing. And that everyone must be special. Everyone must be different and unique. And that to be normal is somehow looked down upon. But if people aren't normal, then things won't work. People are the way they are historically because this is how relationships work in a healthy manner. This is how people get along. This is how people communicate. This is how people work together. And that's been worked out over thousands and thousands of years. At the moment, we seem to be striving to be abnormal. And to form our civilization in such a way as to be as abnormal as possible. To create classifications and that are completely unheard of and abnormal and denigrate the normal way of life. And this pandemic has come about at this time, and God has allowed it for a reason. Maybe so that we can learn to appreciate just what is normal and to see its value. And not to run around trying to be abnormal so much or special. But that being normal, just being normal is a good thing. Living a normal life is a good thing. Because a normal life is a healthy life. It's a life that has satisfaction in it, and growth and health. Because that which is outside of normal does not reproduce itself, does not grow and expand itself. Because a normal growth rate is healthy, but an abnormal growth rate is not. And if we pursue a life of abnormality, it is not a life that is full of health and healing and growth and prosperity, but rather a life marked by abnormal growth and health. And it does not lead to stability. And it does not lead to health. And on this Sunday in Lent, this fourth Sunday, every year we commemorate we normally commemorate St. John of the Ladder. And we remember him largely for what he wrote. We do not know much about his personal life. What he looked like, what kinds of food he ate, what kind of music he liked to listen to, all those things that we think of today. We only have really what he wrote and a few sentences about his life. But what he wrote has become so normative in the church, has become so foundational, that we lift it up and point it out to everyone every year on this Sunday. That his work, The Ladder of Divine Ascent, is such a normal text for Orthodox Christians to read. That it was the first thing, the first book. This is such a normative text even outside of Orthodoxy for Christians. That this is the first thing that was published in the New World in Spanish. The first book ever published in the New World, which was in Mexico, not in the United States, was the Ladder of Divine Ascent. This is a normal book to read. It's very challenging, but that's why it's good for us. That's why it's a normal thing for us to take up, especially in Lent. In the monasteries, this is what they're reading as they're sitting there at their meals. This is what they hear read to them all through Lent, this text. The 30 chapters that coincide with the 30 years of Christ's life that are hidden to us before his public ministry. Symbolic of those 30 years of preparation that then brought him to the forefront of his civilization and society in his preaching. And that these 30 steps, these are the 30 things, the 30 chapters that deal with all the things that we as individuals normally struggle with and must deal with in our lives. Either the vices that we have to overcome or the virtues that we have to inculcate in ourselves, in our lives. That we all normally have to deal with. And it is this text that lays at that foundation of the spiritual life, dating back to the 6th century. It has become normative for us. So this is why we hold it up. Because as we hear in the gospel, if we can believe, this is to the Father, whose Son is possessed by demons. And the Father brings his Son exasperated by this trauma and this illness and this disorder that the demon has brought to his Son. And he's worn out and beat down. And the apostles, the disciples that were there could do nothing for him, and he's exasperated, and he falls at Christ's feet and says, "If you can do anything, help my son." And Christ responds to him, "If you can believe, all things are possible." If we can believe, all things are possible. If we can believe, we can be helped. If we can believe, we can deal with our problems. If we can believe, we can be strengthened to overcome those things in our lives that trouble us, that harm us, that wear us down. If we can believe. For the path is laid out for us. if we can believe, if we can choose to get up and follow it. And it is that path towards the kingdom of heaven that the book, the Ladder of Divine Ascent, describes. And the icon stand there in the center of the church, you can see that ladder going up, and if you could read the Greek, you would see the names of the chapters on each of those steps, what each chapter deals with. If we can believe, the path is there. It is the normal path laid out for all Christians. The Ladder of Divine Ascent is the same ascent that we all are to take. But the question is, do we believe that we can even do it? Or do we believe that we're special and we don't need to? That we're different than everybody else? That we don't need God's help? That we're stronger than others? Are we not normal like everyone else? Are we somehow, in our minds, better? If this is the delusion we have, then we will not make progress, and we'll become more and more like the Son, possessed. Not maybe by demons, but by our own thoughts, or the thoughts of other people that we listen to. We will be possessed by ideology that tells us how special we are, and how great we are, and how unique we are. And the normal problems that we all face, we won't be able to see in ourselves. We will not see the normal struggles that all of us have. The normal failures that we all face. We will not believe that we need help. And we will become more deluded about the nature of how special we are, and less inclined to think we need any help from anybody else, let alone God. So let us not be like that Son. Let us strive to believe like the Father, who confesses his unbelief, and the fact that he does believe, but he does not believe as he should, and that he needs God to help. He needs Christ to help his unbelief. And in this recognition of his weak human nature, his weak state, the normal weak state that we all live in, he finds his humility, and God raises up his Son and lets his Son become normal, not possessed by demons, not special because he foams at the mouth and is cast into water and into fire, but just a normal kid having a normal life with normal problems and getting the normal help he needs. Let us, brothers and sisters, recognize how we are normal and how it is the same path for us to ascend up to heaven as for everyone else, and that we all struggle with the same things, and that none of us are special in this. And let us help one another, because we all need each other's help. And that is normal, to need the assistance of others. And let us help carry one another up the ladder and strive to cut out the vice that is within us and to acquire the virtue that we need. And in this way, we will bear each other's burdens, and we will become a normal saint, going from something that is just common to something that is holy. Amen.
Help us, save us, have mercy on us, and keep us, O God, by thy grace, wisdom, that